I do feel like the students are actually the best kind of quote unquote marketing for the program. I mean, I've got kids that are, again, my language is that normal is broken, so I want weird. And my kids are weird. They are very comfortable talking to adults. They have clarity about what they're doing. They have a ton of autonomy and a ton of leadership over their own learning. And that unfortunately is weird in American schools. So tell me some more stories about kids who are doing things that the rest of American schools would consider to be weird, abnormal. Give me some more stories about that, because again, I think that's the most powerful messaging that we can give families to understand what's possible. And also make sure you let us know what the ages of the kids that you're describing in your stories.
I think mindset is a big part of it too. Like, so much of this stuff is hidden, right? The whole idea of character growth, but we had a 5-year-old who, it was her first year. It was time for spring break. They go on spring break, and she's gotten used to this setting goals thing, right? Where it's like, what's my intention for the day? And so every day on vacation, she would set an intention for that day. And they were totally like fun child ones, right? She's like, I'm going to go on a hike with my dad and not ask him to carry me for any of it. But she had an intention of what she wanted to experience in that day, or how she wanted to grow in that day. And her older sister, she didn't hit one of them. And so she was upset. And her older sister was like on her, like, ha, 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 look at you. And mom stepped in and said, if you don't set any goals, then you never know where you're going. And it was like to watch a 5-year-old come in and help a family grow, right? To be seen as a full functioning part of the family. That's like, children aren't mini adults, right? But they are full-fledged human beings with all the emotions that therein lie. And we just don't give them that experience. And so, you can see it and this is like, some of the kids who come to us have had really rough experiences, like some of the ones who have transferred in, right? Sure. And you can see it in the way that they walk, that they don't have any confidence. You can see it in their facial structure. Yeah. And then like 2 months in, like the way they're standing is different. The way they're holding their face is physically different. And it's just them finding themselves again and not being embarrassed by who they are. And I know I'm not giving you any great stories right now, Matt, because I'm just like, I'm all fired up. I'll give you a good story, right? So apprenticeships is something that we ask students to do. That's part of the program. They need to identify kind of what area they want to work in. They need to write an email, make a phone call, set up the whole thing, right? Yeah. And so this one girl, she really wanted to go and work at the Field Museum. And she was 11 or 12. Field Museum, she's too young. The Field Museum rules don't allow her to go, and that's the response that she gets. And she is not someone who is going to she's not a rule breaker at all. She is certainly a rule follower. She likes there to be good rules though, but she just said that's not acceptable. And so she wrote them back, and she convinced them that even though she wasn't allowed to be there by their guidelines, that they should give her a chance. And she still works there during the summers now. Yeah. She also just finished. She would be in 7th grade now, or 8th grade. I think she would. We don't have grade levels either, so whenever anyone asks me, I get confused. But she's what we call an explorer, which is actually. Now I take that back. We would call her a Voyager, even though, which is our high school level program, even though she's of middle school age, she'd finished all the stuff. So you just keep moving and go on. Yeah.
So let me pause you for a second, if you don't mind. I mean, so for the parents that might be listening, to understand the importance of what this young lady did when she got a no answer, she actually had enough courage and enough confidence to say, I'm going to negotiate, right? And negotiation is something that is not allowed in a typical educational structure, right? There are policies, there are rules, and they apply to everyone, and there's no question about it. So, but in the real world, outside of school, we negotiate all the time, right? At least those that are high functioning adults do. And so for the parents that might be hearing this, you've got a kid who's, 11, 12 years old, who is thinking and operating like a high functioning adult already. Imagine what that looks like as she moves forward. That's the kind of story that, if we unpack the importance of it, I think it does start to give parents a pause, because you won't see that in traditional educational structure.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, one of the things that I didn't say about the Acton model is outside of three main rules, right? So outside of, you can't physically or emotionally hurt somebody else, you can't destroy somebody else's property, and you can't intentionally distract somebody from their learning. The young people come up with all the rules, and they enforce all the rules. And so there's constant negotiation around that, like, well, that rule we made doesn't make any sense. Okay, well, let's figure out how that works. And so it's well beyond, because conventional school, you learn how to be a cog. Whether
you're rewarded for being a cog, and you are actually actively punished for being yourself. That's the interesting dynamic there. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. And so I think one of the big things about conventional school is there's a mindset that's being taught that is, it's unspoken, right? It's not stated. It's never going to show up in one of your learning outcomes that's written for that course. But it is like, sit down and shut up and talk when spoken to. And, certain people are just better than others. And if you're not one of those people, well, then you're never going to get there. And that's just not life, man.